G'day everyone, welcome to another episode of Coast to Coast. It's not every day you've got the big kahuna joining us in studio. Welcome to the West Coast Eagles CEO Don Pyke, making his way all the way down the other end of the building and sitting here on the couch. Welcome Don, thanks for joining us.
Thanks Thumper, thanks for having me on the show.
Have you been here before?
I have been in this room, but not as it's set up, so yeah, quite looking forward to it. It's a nice little intimate setting.
It is nice. If you can't find me at the desk, there's every chance I'm having a little sleep down here.
Lying down here, yeah, nice.
You can come wake me up though. You're one of the few that get the access to the room. There are a ton of topics I'd love to run through with you, Don, while I've got you on the show, but all seem quite trivial when it comes to the perspective of the untimely passing of Adam Selwood. And firstly, I wanted to ask you just about the legacy that he'll leave as an unbelievable clubman, a tremendous friend to so many at this club, and an unbelievable father and family man.
Yep.
What kind of lasting impact is Adam going to leave?
All the things you just mentioned. I mean, it was a really sad weekend for the footy club. We got the news on Saturday morning, and our hearts go out to the Selwoods and Fiona and the family. It's just it's one of those sort of phone calls you just hate getting. And Selwoods was just a ripping bloke. He was just one of those classic teammates that just gave everything and was prepared to do whatever his role was or his job was to help the team. And then following that, he went into some coaching stuff and got involved with the W and our community. So his reach across the club is significant. And as you know, and knowing Sellers, he had wonderful relationships and he had great friends across all those levels. So yeah, it's been a tough week.
You teamed up with him a fair bit too, because you came along as the assistant when he was developing, right?
Yeah, so I came along just after he'd finished, and he went into development coaching after that. So I got to know him through there, and he was sort of learning the ropes as a young coach coming through, and then obviously went from there to set up the W, and has built those strong relationships with a lot of our original W squad, who I know have got together and sort of celebrated his life and reflected on his life and in recent times. So it's he's touched a lot of areas of the footy club, and when you're at a footy club, as you know, for that length of time, you do build a whole range and a wide range of friendships with people, and that's what they were. And there'll always be a part of Sellers at the club.
Well said, Don. And it is quite unbelievable that the club, through their immense sadness and grief, were able to channel that into one of, if not their best performance on the weekend against the Saints, going back to the footballing realm. Such a great reward for the program, for the players and coaches and everyone putting in the yards, I want to say for many years, but let's say for the mini era since November until today, and to have that payoff and rewarding the copious amounts of fans that are still coming in droves to Optus to watch them.
Yeah, it was a real bittersweet moment, wasn't it, on the weekend? You sort of won the game and felt like that was great reward for the players for the work that they've been doing in recent times, and obviously first win for Mini was significant as well, but you sort of sense the mood was a little subdued. I mean, the song, for a side that hadn't won a game all year, the song was sung with gusto, but it was in a nice way, I think, just respectful of the environment and the situation that we found ourselves in on the weekend. So, but yeah, super proud of the whole club on the weekend. I thought it was a significant challenge to overcome based on where we were in the ladder, as well as just the events of and the loss of Adam. So I thought everyone across all our areas, from people who are involved in our comms team through to our players to our coaches, are all impacted. There's no question. A lot of people are strongly impacted by the news. Found a way just on the Sunday to just get their job done, and to get the win was a bonus, to be honest. And it was great for the players to get a little bit of that reward.
It was another outstanding celebration of Indigenous culture, of course, Doug Nicholls' round, and having the new jumper, the design, a lot of stories shared from the current playing group. You got the past teammates coming in and sort of celebrating the culture of the club and the connection piece. It is a round that we hold incredibly dear to us as a footy club.
Yeah, and it was great to see, and the impact of the guys here. It was, no surprise that Liam Rhymes steps up in the last quarter when things are a little bit wobbly and knocks a couple over, and all of a sudden the game's iced, and it's amazing how things work out, isn't it? But look, we've had a long history and tradition of having some wonderful Indigenous and First Nation players at our club, and if you go back to the start with Narkle and Lewis and work your way through the Tomatira came on board, and then you sort of with Punda, Sampi, into now the guys we've got, Rioli, Ryan, Kelly,
just genuine superstars.
Just like we're not talking, we're talking some high end talent and quality. And look, I love the round. I love the fact that it now goes over 2 rounds, and every club gets a chance to host and put their own recognition on Indigenous players in our game, and they bring something to the game which, having coached, you can't teach. they just have a natural ability, flair, a visual, a skill level, which is just so unique to our game and has been so significant for our game. So it was great to celebrate the round. And great to see our Indigenous guys get a win as well on that day and have a real impact.
Well, on the subject of the First Nations players, we've got two that have put pen to paper this week to recommit to the club even further, talking about Tim Kelly and Tyrell Dewar. Jack Hutchinson has also, ignored lures to want to go home and go back to Victoria, which pleases us a great deal.
Yeah.
So no better cause for celebration than keeping good people and talented people on this list.
Yeah, and great to have all three of those re-sign and recommit. And, that's the process we now go through on list management, is working out, list spots and looking at who to re-sign. And in all three of their cases, there's, they all bring something really special to the team. Obviously, Tim, 2 years ago is a club champ, so to push him on for another couple of years is great, and looking forward to what he can bring in this new sort of style of play that Minnie's doing. And he's obviously using him in a slightly different role now, but we know his quality as a midfielder. And both Tyrell and Jack, I think, have shown in their time playing AFL footy that they've got the ability to play some really good regular senior footy for us, and so really exciting to have both those guys on board. And we'll keep working through the rest of the squad as it goes, and looking to secure as much of our young talent as we can to make sure that we're set for the next piece in our history.
I know there's some fans that were tuning in to say, well, maybe Pikey's got a bit of an update of how other contracts might be playing out. So we've got the co-captain that'll be coming to free agency end of the year, and Harley Reid, of course, looking for a recommittal there. How are they progressing at the moment?
Look, they're moving forward, but it's there's no timeline on those, and we're in conversations with both them and their managers at the moment. So nothing to update, unfortunately, for the people out there. But we continue to have the discussions, and we'll see where they get.
Andrew Mini McQualter, first year at the helm.
Yep.
Of course, as you said, getting his first win on the weekend, which just massive sigh of relief, and got to enjoy a bit of a bath in the middle there with some of the other boys. A great rapport with the playing group, seems to have established a style of play that is not only exciting, but seems to be fitting with the modern era and being adhered to by the players.
Yep.
You remember back in 2016 what it's like to join, the ranks of AFL coaching, which is a massive step up from coaching either assistant or a lower level, and the responsibility that comes with it. How are you finding how Minnie's doing so far?
He's been great. Like at the end of the day, we went through the process last year and identified him as our leading candidate, and he's delivered in spades. I mean, we know that the ladder is the ladder, but we've got a few things we had to work through, and he's working through those with the group, and he's working through them from a change of style of play, getting to know the players, getting to understand the players and the roles they can play within his system. And as I said before, I sort of felt for him a little bit, because it was almost like one week we'd answer the question to our ball movement and we'd sort that out, and we'd be really efficient moving the ball. The next week our defence would let us down. The following week we got beaten badly against Melbourne, got beaten badly at clearance, and so all of a sudden on the weekend it was nice to see pretty much all the three phases, not necessarily all come together to be perfect, but just be good enough to mean that you were in the game and give yourself the chance to push ahead what we were able to do and win the game. So, but he's been working really hard with a fairly new coaching group around what are the things they're going to value, what are they going to reward, and it always takes a bit of time for a new coach coming on board to get that messaging across. And I think we saw that it's starting to come together on the weekend.
It almost feels like you can't just give them the whole meal at once, in terms of we've got so many areas to get better at and to fix. So you almost have to do it incrementally, and sort of eventually over time it all starts to come together a little bit.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. A little bit of also you got some new younger players who are learning the ropes. So, you bring in guys like Hamish Davis and Tyrell and even Jack Hutch, who's played 10 games. I think you look across, sometimes you've got to remind yourself that they're learning the ropes of AFL footy, let alone earning the ropes of AFL footy under how Andrew wants them to play. So, but there's been signs, and I think we've all seen some signs. And, pleasingly in the last probably month, we've been in a lot of games. We've been there or thereabouts. We haven't obviously won apart from the weekend, but it's the progress we're looking for in there, which you can actually see. And then the guys, the beauty also at the moment, and one of the big advantages I think we've had this year is our player availability and durability has been first class. And so you get the loop for the players. They can come in, they can play, they can review, they can learn, they can train, they can prepare again, they can play, and all of a sudden you do that week on week, and it's easy for players to get a real feel for the areas they need to work on, the strengths they bring to the game, and it builds their confidence. And the reality is confidence doesn't come from telling a guy, oh, you're a good player, you're going to be all right. The confidence comes from actually doing. And the more you can do, and the more you can do on the training track, and the more you can play and learn, that builds your competency, which is where confidence comes from. So we're starting to see that, and we're starting to see some of those young guys now feel like they belong out there, whereas early they're going, I'm not sure, and it's natural. We've all been there, and it's, 18, you walk out and you go, how's this going to go? Like, how's this really going to work? But now we're starting to see someone feel like they do belong out there and they understand what the level is and what's required, and so that's exciting. Yeah.
So this week the club released a statement around Jeremy McGovern.
Yep.
He's going to face the AFL concussion panel. Still experienced some ongoing symptoms from his concussion hit against the Demons, which is just is brutal to hear.
Yep.
I mean, I think at the forefront of everyone's mind that wears an Eagles jumper, fan or player, is how is Gov going mentally? How's he tracking sort of in the day-to-day, and how's he feeling about the upcoming sort of appearance at the AFL?
Yeah, well, it's obviously, disappointing news for Gov, and we feel for him. He's being managed through the protocols as is at the moment, and he's still experiencing some ongoing symptoms, which is important that we deal with before we actually consider a return to play. So the next step is the concussion panel, and he'll prepare to go to that. But he'll continue to do some light training in preparation of that and just see exactly where it sits. So he's tracking well. In answer to your question, obviously he's still got some symptoms, which we're mindful of the docs are doing a great job in managing him and treating him. Interestingly, with Gov, he's such a competitor. He wants to play, right? But you've got to go, no, this is bigger than just playing a game of footy. Like, you obviously had a history here. We need to make sure you're right, go through the right process, look after him, and his health is number one priority and should be, given his history. We want to make sure that we look after Gov.
Now, next Wednesday, May 28, I believe, is the mid-season draft. Yep. So I think despite the great win on the weekend, we are still locked into position numero uno of first pick.
I think it's unlikely we'll hand that one up, unfortunately.
So we've seen on the weekend we had two players take part in that victory that were a part of the mid-season draft, and Jack Hutchinson and Ryan Marrick, who both seem semi-cemented in this team at this point. So it is a crucial pick to nail. How is Matty Clark and the crew sort of assessing this talent pool coming through at the moment?
Yeah, well, it becomes interesting on the mid-season. It's sort of, we've got a pick, which is great. And
so that only happens with Dommy Sheed going on the long term, is that
right?
Well,
when Dom went on to the long term, that released the spot for us. Because obviously we put, I think, Sandy Brock up earlier in the year.
Yep.
So we deliberately wanted to keep a spot, and unfortunately, Dom went down, and then we were able to create the spot. So look, the reality for us is we just take the best player. We're not sitting going, we need this player or that player or that player. I think Clarkey and list management is really just going, who's the best player?
Do you look at age in that as well, though, Pikey, to a degree?
I think you look at the whole. We still do the same. This is interesting because we actually still do the same process we would do for our first pick in the national draft or our last pick in the national draft, and that's one thing Clarkey's been really strong about, is making sure we don't just go through something different because it's only the mid-season draft or it's only the rookie pick. It's like, no, we apply the same metric across what we do to make sure that we're picking the best player we can, and we understand his strengths, his weaknesses, we understand his medical history, we understand everything we can about them, so that we've got the best chance of them being as good as they can be in our environment. And so, it's going to be, we'll bring someone in the middle of next week, which will be great. And as you say, we've had some success with that. I mean, you'd argue Jai Cully, who's not here anymore, but he's now on Melbourne's list. Still a really good pick in that draft as someone that's earned the right to play AFL footy.
I know you got a fair bit on your plate. You're not also pouring through vision of these possible draftees. Jody's not catching at midnight scrolling and crunching film.
No, I'm not. I don't tend to look at it. Look, we'll probably see some in list management. I'm sure before next Wednesday we'll get a look at the player. But the reality is we've got recruiters, we've got scouts out there doing stuff. Matt and his team will come up with the recommendation, and they've done all the work. So it's not for me to turn around and decide, I don't like the way he moves on his left foot or something. It's like, it's irrelevant, really.
Thanks for your input.
Yeah, correct. Well, it's the same, and it's the same at the national draft. The reality is these guys they're talking to, interviewing, watching these young men play maybe 10, 15, 20 times, and talking to a whole range of teachers, to coaches, to everyone else. Like, they form their views based on who they think is going to fit our club, our system, who's got the right character. There's a lot that goes into it, and to try and get across that, you're not doing it. You're not doing service if you think you can come in and go, but I really like that kid. Yeah,
it's good to hear. I've heard of medalers in their time, so I'm glad that we're not.
Yeah, no. I'm not there. I just go, if you're really if your conviction's strong, back your judgment and go with it. And that's they're the ones who do the work.
Excellent. We've got the Crows this Sunday on the road. Yep. Are you going across?
Yep, heading across.
Now, you're not going to get lost in which change room to go in?
No, I'll be fine. Okay? No, I went last year, unfortunately, Thumper, and it wasn't what we wanted. But anyway, that's okay.
We'll move on.
Different year this year.
So the following week, we've got the hit out at home against the Cats, and that's celebrating the WA Day weekend. And it's a an occasion and an event that we're looking to sort of get behind as a club and to really own as part of our footy calendar.
Yeah, look, we talked to the AFL last year around, every year you go through these requests for fixturing, and everyone wants maximum breaks, all those sorts of things kick in there. And we looked at the calendar and thought, well, how do we create a day which we think is going to be supportive of promoting WA footy? Now, we know Gather Round in Adelaide, and so we spoke to the AFL about, could we get a game on the weekend of WA Day and actually celebrate not only all things WA, but all things WA footy. Obviously, I'd like to think West Coast, as the first AFL team, outside of Victoria, has a pretty significant role in the state footy landscape, and probably off the back of State of Origin, which was 10 years before we started. So it's sort of a nice synergy there, and we also think it's great to promote Western Australia. Like, we've got so much to offer over here. I know that North Melbourne are coming across from the tourism push for that, but WA is a great spot that we think we should celebrate. And so engaging with Celebrate WA and obviously Western Australia of the Year and all these sorts of things, there's a whole range of activations we'll do through that. So really looking forward to that night, the Sunday night, 5:30 should be a cracking game against Geelong, and hopefully we come in there and give them a real shake.
And everyone's got the day off, public holiday Monday.
Next
so
day, so correct. So you can
have a late night for the kids is what I'm
You can have a late. No, there's no school the next day as well. So it sort of fits the calendar nicely. And thanks to obviously the AFL have seen that, give us that opportunity. So we get to go, Sunday night, 7:30 into Melbourne. So it should be a big game. And I think it's great for us if we can get that on the calendar every year. It'd be fantastic.
What do you think of the jumper? We had our best available models at the time, which was Bakes and Jake.
Well, I love the jumper. I reckon the jumper does a great job of capturing the blend between us as West Coast and obviously the state component. Loved it.
Now, also, that we're a couple of weeks away from the Bunbury game, of course, as you've mentioned, down at Hands Oval. So it'll be the first time, historical, that we're playing premiership points down there. Yep. Surely wrapped that deal's been locked in for 3 years as well, the extra home game, but obviously growing it in the southern regions. Yeah,
look, as I think I said when it was announced, great for our South West members. We've got a heap of members basically all the way from Mandurah down to as far down as Margaret River Augusta way through that whole corridor. So I think the challenge will be getting tickets and getting into the game.
It was sold out pretty early.
Yeah, correct. And that's, they'll be pretty rare, the tickets. But
you had a few phone calls, have you?
Well, I've had a few. Yeah, I've got a few relatives down that way looking for a couple of tickets. So we'll scrape a couple around.
Get them in the box, yep.
I think it's great for the South West footy as well. It's the first time, I know we had the practice game there earlier in the year, but they've been sort of starved of AFL footy, and I think there'll be a fantastic turnout. Obviously, securing that for 3 years is significant for us. Next year we'll play them at Optus, and Fremantle will head down to Bunbury. So, it's great for us from a home game viewpoint, and so we look forward to getting down there and mixing it with our members and fans down there.
100%. It's always a nervous wait seeing the second half of the AFL fixtures and where they land. We've got them back in the last 7 days. Not as many Sunday games as I thought were going to come our way, which is sort of great news.
Yeah.
And I know there's a Melbourne night in there as well. What else caught your eye about how the second half played out fixture-wise?
I think it was, interestingly, we had a couple of, we had the first game, obviously, after the bye will be against Collingwood in Saturday night in Melbourne, which creates a few logistics from a travel viewpoint because you can't get back straight away after the game, so we have to come back the next day. But Friday night against the Giants, Saturday night against Richmond, both at Optus, good time slots for us. Great for our members and fans and so forth. So and it was a good draw for us, which is great. Now, challenge is we need to perform better in the second half of the year to get a better draw next year.
We're now into the second week of the AFLW preseason officially commencing. I know Daisy and the girls have been working rigorously hard for months, but they're technically on deck and the season's starting. I want to say it's mid-August at this point. Fixtures still to be released.
Yep.
4 wins last year, certainly on the progressive growth train at the moment. And I guess we're hoping just for continued improvement with these girls and the program.
Yeah, and the program's stepped up again. Daisy first year in last year was a bit like Andrew coming in, getting a feel for the program, the girls, where the gaps were and so forth. And I know talking to her after the season, there's some things which they've already started to address. We've also got a young squad that are going to naturally just get better. I say naturally, but they've got to do the work. Mm-hmm. But they should naturally get better with some high talent, with some of our better younger players. And I think another year with Daisy on board in terms of just the coaching side of the structural piece. And as you say, the girls have been doing a mountain of work. They had a couple of compulsory blocks, which most of them came to. Because they want to get better as well, and they've improved their fitness, improved their skill, improved their strength. So all the measures you'd look for are heading in the right direction. And as I said before about the men's program, that just gives you the confidence that you can actually play against the best teams in the comp. And we've got, I think the W, there's a gap between the top 4 and maybe the rest as well. So we're pushing into, we're going to push into that sort of 8 area. But to do that, you've got to be able to play at that level for longer, which is what Daisy's working really hard with the girls on. And they bring great energy. They love being at the footy club. They're really engaged, trying to get better, and you can't ask much more.
No, their drive is very evident. So now I want to say we're about 3 weeks away from mid-season bye. What's the plan to sort of give these boys a bit of a refresher? Is it just a block of time off?
Yeah, so the team will play the Sunday against Carlton here at Optus, and then they've got a 4-day break. So they're out until the Friday, and they'll I talked to the footy guys yesterday about it. I don't know how many stay, how many go back to Victoria. Obviously, by the time you leave on a Monday morning, and you're sort of jammed up a little bit. So I imagine
Users' choice of how they want to do it, though.
They've got their own choice. Some may want to go back, some may stay. Well, they might head away to the country. They might head down south or whatever. Good opportunity to. It's always a chance. Mid-season is always that chance to just take a bit of a breath out, and that's not only for the players but for the coaches and the footy department staff. It's you start to get to that June, July time, and the natural fatigue of the season kicks in. So it's a good opportunity to get away and get a spell, and actually have a bit of think about what is it the next 8 to 9 rounds looks like based on what we've learned in the first 15.
What about yourself, Pyke? There's been a lot of talk about we and us as a club and as an administrator, but you're a human and you've had an absolute hectic 2 years sort of getting your feet in the door and building everyone up in here.
Yep.
What are you doing? I know your golf handicap goes to water with in the winter when you don't get out there and have time to play. What are you going to do to refresh
that's one thing I learnt last year. Like last year was, I probably didn't quite appreciate the relentless nature of the job, because the season is no longer just the season. It's actually the year, because the W's season kicks in straight afterwards. So in terms of the year, I found last year, there was a whole range of other things we were changed. Obviously, we had Adam leaving the club and some others, and it was managing all of that into, at the end of the year, we had a senior coach to find, which took pretty much all of September to do that. Then you go into trades and drafts and other periods, which you're not running it, but you're involved in it, because clearly, we want to make sure we get those decisions as best we can. And then the W's on at the same time. So you're managing and you're trying to support the team there into award ceremonies, into this and that. So I found last year I came up for air pretty much the week before Christmas, and there wasn't a lot in the tank. And then I go on a break with my family, and of course, usual thing happens. You sort of get crook because you've sort of just run yourself to the line. So reflective learner, I said, look, I'm not going to do that this year. So I'm going to take a bit of time in the middle of the year, just to have a bit of a break and get away and just allow myself to refresh, and then come back and hit the second half of the year ready to go. I won't miss any games as such, but I'll just get a spell and make sure that I spend some time and look after my energy levels, because that's important across the whole club. 100%.
Absolutely get your rest, Pikey. My number hasn't changed. You want to get me out on the golf course to refreshen up?
Yeah, we haven't got out though. That's the thing. You're out there playing. What's going on?
I think people like Chatty Warner are taking my position in the fortnight, but maybe he's free for a couple of years.
Play golf with Chad once, and now look what's happened. Yeah,
I appreciate you coming in here, Don, and lowering the colours to come on Thumper's Lowly podcast. But
no, it's great. Thanks for having me on.
A message to the fans, and absolutely good luck for the remainder of the year. Hope it all goes as smoothly as possible, and that our progression continues as we head into the later months of the year. Thanks very much.
Thanks, mate. And look, to our members and fans, if I can just finish with this, is like I've been blown away by the level of commitment our fans and members have. Even on the weekend, there's 43,000 turned up. We haven't won a game all year, and just love the fact that they are sticky. They are not only sticky, they are stuck, and it's brilliant. I think talking to the staff on Monday, the feeling in that last quarter when we got on top and we looked like we were going to win was unbelievable. So to all the members and fans out there, love your support, appreciate it. We never take it for granted, and get behind us. We're on the right path.
Well said, Pikey. Cheers.
Thanks, mate.